a sudden we find ourselves here. So I'm going to say, yeah, you're right. We probably should have done a fans forum at some point last year, but it became incredibly difficult to actually determine when the date of that fans forum should be. I'll be really honest with you. You know, we had an awful lot to do last year. Secondly, the new stadium really accelerated pace, probably from about January 2023 right forward. And that does take an enormous amount of our time, huge amount of our time. And then final point is that if I circle back to just over a year ago, we didn't actually have a real working senior management team of this business. And that puts an enormous amount of pressure on the people who were there. We've spent an awful lot of time. And look, this is all the stuff you don't see, but I'm going to make absolutely no apology for it. We've spent an enormous amount of time recruiting the people who are sitting on this table at the moment, who are actually working ridiculously hard to deliver what we want. But your point is really valid. We've spent 6 months, as Grant said, designing a fan engagement plan, looking at what best clubs and what best practice actually is across the whole pyramid of English football. And that's what we're delivering today. I get it. It's been a long time coming, but it's here now. You absolutely have my word that what we say tonight will be delivered. I can absolutely guarantee that.
Sorry, 2 quick points. The first one being, I never want to compare us to other teams, but through Facebook algorithms, I get a lot from other teams. And one thing that Wigan does is they do £1 tickets for under 18s, because that's going to help us to get that new generation in. You know, as a parent, if you go, oh, I want to take the kids to the football, my ticket's £27, but I can take all 3 kids for £3, so it's 30 quid a day out. It's much more reasonable, and it gets that new generation in. Second point is, I don't know if anyone here has been to Box Park when we've been to Wembley, not as often as I'd like, but with Box Park, you've got that fan engagement zone where you've got all the restaurants around, Sky Sports on the telly and benches, so you've got that community hub. And we've done it in small ways before, where we've had like the marquees in the car park with like a couple of kegs, but it's that space for the fans to get together, to build the atmosphere before the game, because at the moment it's so disjointed. We sit in the car for 2 hours before the match because there's nowhere to go.
I'm going to let Adam just answer the question on tickets. I mean, God, if we could do Box Park outside here, I mean, genuinely, you know, we talk about it continually, and yet there's no, the reality is I'm going to be really honest with you. If we were to do a Box Park type thing outside the stadium, we'd probably have to sell another 5,000 tickets a game in order to pay for it. That's the issue we've got. We cannot make these things worth it, because it would just be a drain on cost. And I don't want to bring it down to cost. I would absolutely love to do something. But, you know, we can't do both. We can't do Box Park and offer £1 tickets. That's the problem. New stadium, my God, it's going to be different. And bear with us until that happens. We'll do as much as we can. You know, we've actually... No, but again, I'll let Adam talk about that, because we're formulating, you know, what we're going to do for next year in terms of pricing as well. So, but, you know, we're already starting to improve what we're doing outside the stadium at the moment. We've got the sort of the inner part that we populate from time to time where we can. You know, we can't necessarily do everything we'd like to. What's happened, and again, there's something that asked that, oh, it's not our stadium, so we can't do anything. It's not our stadium, so we're just going to ignore that. It's rubbish. I nearly used a swear word then, sorry, streamers. But we will do as much as we can within the realms of what we can do to make the experience a lot better. To your point, we want young people to come to the stadium. We want kids, we want students there. We want to expand that fan base so we do get a demographic which isn't basically what you've got on this table. We want to make sure that we become appealing to a completely new generation of fans. We'll do as much as we can here. We received the results of the Football League fan experience last year. It wasn't great. It will be better this year because we're actually looking at this. Jim and Adam have been absolutely tasked with making that happen. We have limitations, but we're not going to be confined by those limitations as far as possible. £1 tickets, Adam.
Yeah, I think to answer the ticketing question, we have actually started bringing down prices in certain areas. I mean, this season alone, we brought down prices, season ticket prices and match day ticket prices in one area of the ground. We introduced the 18 to 24 season ticket as well, made it much more affordable for people in that age bracket to come to games. We've also got, it's not for league games at the moment, but for cup games and friendlies, the early rounds, we made those really, really affordable prices. Well, I think if you look at the pre-season friendlies and you look at the attendances, actually they went up significantly based on previous seasons. Well, they did in terms of sales and revenue, both for the people that came through the doors and the money that we generated. They went up. Can we do more around pricing? Of course we can. Can we do more to try and get people through the doors? We can. This season, though, and these are the figures around it, we have seen a big growth in attendances and a big growth in revenues. You know, if I look at 1st of July to the 31st of December 2020, and compare that to the same period for 2023, match ticket revenues and ticketing revenues are up £300,000. And we've also seen a big increase in average attendances at those gates as well. So some of what we are... Well, we are doing what we can to drive people through the doors. You're right. There is things that we can do around atmosphere. We're also doing things and trying to make match days more appealing. Can we do more? Of course, we can always do more. We can always look at new things. You know, we had a game station evening a couple of weeks ago. We've got a big event coming up this weekend with Blue Light Day as well. We are doing more. Can we do more? Of course we can do more. It's about resource, it's about time, it's about seeing what works. And we are putting more into that and delivering more. But we can always do more.
Hello. Can I ask, how is the morale of the backroom staff? And I'm talking nothing to do with the coaching. Now, I'm not saying I know what it is, but I have a strong suspicion it's not good. And I also, personally speaking, my morale since I came to this club and was a volunteer on the Community Trust, raising money for the Community Trust, this is the first season that it's been bad. And I've had my battles with Adam, and he's got his reasons. But we're not, so for those who don't know, we help run the stall, and we've raised thousands and thousands of pounds. Personally, I've raised £57,000 since 2010. You make me blush. But our table was more about the community. Old men or women come in to get warm, have a chat, talking about the football, etc. And that's been decimated. And I know yes, great that the revenue's gone up in the club, £300,000, but we offer to sell stuff that didn't clash with the club, so stuff that the club didn't sell, or we could sell old second-hand shirts that that other families can't afford. And Oxfox have tried, the Community and the Trust charity have tried. We haven't got anywhere. And the reason I ask about the morale is about the amount of people that's left. Chris Williams left recently. A lot of people have left. And yes, I heard your talk on the radio, and you talked about a great opportunity. But why is he looking for an opportunity? I could be headhunted and I'd turn it down because I'm happy in my job. So why are these people don't seem to be happy? And I just wonder, and I just worry about it.
I'll come into that one. I'm probably the newest member of the club coming in. I worked here before. I did some consultancy work here before COVID and stopped work because of COVID. I've gone off to work for another football club for some time, and I have a fantastic time working at a football club. and I've got asked to come back. And I came down, had some discussions, met several people, and I've come into a football club which, behind the scenes, is buzzing. There are lots going on, there's lots of things happening, there are things we could do better, and I don't think anybody here will dispute that. But in my very short tenure in this club, there's been an awful lot going on, things which have been incredibly busy, but the work rate, the pressure people put in place is amazing. Naturally, people move on in their jobs. I was working for a football club and people will go, why on earth would you want to move from that? But people move on. And that's the nature of our career. We all develop. I've come here and I've got to say, as a newest person coming in, I'm loving it. It's hard work. I've got no staff. I'm used to having a lot of people to do a lot of stuff, and I look around and poor Andy in the corner waits until I phone him up and say, here's another load of stuff for you. And the poor bloke had hair and was you know, he's only 26. Look at him, poor bloke. It's hard work here because people here want to do the hard work. And I'll tell you now, this is one of the hardest working senior leadership teams I've come across, and I've worked in several. But I will say this one bit, this is the biggest team and most combined team I've ever been with behind the scenes. And we've got a unity which I am thoroughly enjoying. It's a start, it's a new team, we've only recently joined together, but I'll tell you what, we've got somewhere to go. And I'll openly say that. So hopefully that'll help me get me through my probation period as well. So that's but genuinely, you know, I cannot say what's happened in the 4 years before or after I left and came back. But what I've come back into is an incredibly different atmosphere and a drive. People on this table and people around this room, many of which are in here, people who are passionate to work for us. So, yes, people will move on. That's the nature of the beast. People will say to me, why have I left and come here? I wanted to develop. That's the nature of the beast. We will go through. But I've got to say, this is a special place to
Let
be.
me put the colour in. I said it to Jerome, I wouldn't talk about individuals, but since everyone in the room probably knows them, Chris Williams and Niall McWilliams both became good friends of mine in a relatively short period of time. I've only been coming around the club for a couple of years, but they both became very good friends. Chris is moving to a job that, frankly, we didn't have for him in the club, and it's a great job. And I was not going to stand in the way of somebody who wants to move on to challenge themselves in something different. That's the conversation we had. He wasn't being despondent or downbeat about it. He was going on to a new challenge. Niall came to me a year ago and said, I've been running this club for 6 years. I am tired. It's hard work. He'll tell you now. It's hard work running a football club. He was good enough. I talked him into extending it for a year till we got the land deal done and a couple of other key projects he was working on. And he extended for a year. And when he came back a year later, I tried to get him to extend again because I still think there was a role. And Neil, he's the same age as I am. We all get to that point in life where we've got other things to do. And so Neil moved of his own accord for the right reasons. And I actually spoke to him this afternoon, and he's quite baffled about this perception that he's being somehow shuffled out of the club. Because it's not the way he feels it.
Just point out there are another dozen questions about that very second. No, just, you've answered it, but to let you know, there were a lot of people who asked that very question about the amount of staff who've left, and not just Chris and Niall, but head groundsman and Eddie Denton and Pete in accounts. So that was asked by a lot of people.
So let me just, I'll just further that as well. So it's really important that in this club we create an environment where people can develop, grow professionally, personally, with appropriate training, development. We are investing in people. But the journey we're on here, as Jim said, as Grant said, this is not easy. Running a football club is not easy. We are a multi-million-pound organisation. We have owners who rightly have incredibly high demands on what we do, and we have a culture of absolute excellence in this business. I hope you can see that today. We are completely invested in this. But Not everybody wants that journey. Not everybody wants to kind of join that train, and that's fine. But what I want to do is, every one of the people in this room has got the ability to grow, develop professionally within the club. And they may do it at a bigger club. And if in 5 to 10 years' time, some of the people who are in this room now are with Premier League clubs doing the jobs that they're doing here, there's going to be nobody prouder than me. That's what we want to create. We've got some amazing people in this club who take the history of this club right back to the Manor Ground. That is amazing. It's what we need as well. It's the thread that we need in this club, but we need to bring talent into this club to take it to the next level. It's that simple, because we do not want to stagnate. We never, ever want to stagnate. And I hope you can see that here. None of us are that young, but
It's hard work, but we all love it. We're all doing a job we love. We're blessed to be part of a football club, let's face it.
Paul, we've got 15 minutes left, that's all. Apologies on the stream if you sent a question in, we're not going to get to. We've got so many questions left, but in the room as well. Paul, what have we got at the back?
Yeah, we're going to rattle through some now.
2 points. The bridge going over the road of the new stadium, will it have wheelchair access? And will it be flat, or will it just be all steps and the lights for me? Will then that just have to use the road? And the second point is, I'm disappointed about the parking charges if people get here early enough on a Saturday or a Tuesday night game, of possibly being charged, particularly if some of us come from quite far. I personally, on a home game, will do about 130-mile round trip to and from football of a weekend or Tuesday.
Oh, just before you get on to that, I know Michael was asking about the parking and how it will affect.
Can I just say there has been some communication around the parking eye. It is never going to have any charge associated to it. It is purely a parking eye system that ensures that people that park in the car park are using one of the units within the business. There is no charge.
Okay.
I can do the bridge.
The whole disability access, let me be clear, we're going to have one of the greatest disability and accessibility stadiums you could imagine. It isn't a situation which is going to be a challenge for people to have status, and massive credit to Jonathan for the work he's put through. But for the crowd safety elements from my side of it, I've been absolutely amazed that everything is about accessibility, viewability, and probably the greatest thing which I've seen from the design process is, instead of it being wheelchair accessible, has to be sitting around the edge of the pitch and you can't see and you're a ridiculous angle. It is designed with view lines in place for accessibility, for disability awareness, at a level well above anything I've ever seen. I've worked at some incredible stadia. It is fantastic. And Gemma at the end has got some fantastic work to done for it.
Yeah,
yeah, fine.
I mean, absolutely yes is the answer. I will not allow a bridge to be built that doesn't have ramp access when we're trying to build the most accessible stadium in the UK. Every turnstile will be accessible. The whole of the concourse will be flat and accessible. There are wheelchair accessible bays across the whole of the stadium in all 4 stands. And we are looking at flexible means allowing you to sit with companions who aren't in wheelchairs. As Jim says, it will be one of the most, if not the most, accessible stadium in the UK, and we pride ourselves on that. It's one of our pillars of success and one of the pillars of achieving what we want from the stadium. And also, thank you for travelling a 130-mile round trip to come and watch the games.
At the back, thank you.
Just to address Michael's point about fundraising, I think it's really important to remember that actually the volunteers and the fans, they're the lifeblood of the club. I think Michael, the effort that he's put in over the years has been unbelievable. One thing I want to make clear is that there's been conversations with the football club to address these issues, and through Adam Benson in particular, and through Oxfox and the sports panel, we've been talking with the community trust, there will be an agreement for the fundraising going forward. This is something that matters to the fans, and the club are aware of that, and that will change, and there will be something, some positive stuff on that, Michael, and we're working on it. And we want fans like yourselves to be volunteering, feel like you're being rewarded for what you're doing, and we do appreciate you. Just quickly, in terms of atmosphere, you'll be getting an email from me in the morning, Jim, about a lot of younger fans who want to set up an atmosphere group, and I've been talking to a lot of people. It's absolutely correct that during the Daryl Eales era, there was a connection. It wasn't always great, but there was a connection, and I think that's been lacking. The guys on the panel, they know exactly my feelings on it. I don't think it's been good enough from the football club. I don't think it's been good enough from the supporters. I think we've all got to take responsibility and bring back that connection. This is a room full of people that care massively about our football club. We need to get behind Des, we need to get behind a team, and if we all work together, we can make this club successful.
Yeah, great.
Gentleman here in the green shirt, I think, and the glasses, Paul, just here in the middle of the row. Gentleman here in the green shirt, I think, and the glasses, Paul, just here in the middle of the row. Just got a couple of questions left. Let's try and keep them short, please.
Yeah. Financial boring question, probably one for you, Tim. 2023 accounts. Obviously, they have been with the EFL for a week or so. They come out Company's House in 2 or 3 weeks. So we know the numbers. What's the loss?
I actually don't know, Colin, because I've not actually seen them yet.
You're joking.
So they've not been with the EFL for 3 weeks at all. They'll get published.
No, for about a week, isn't
No,
it,
they
with
haven't.
the EFL?
No, they haven't.
No?
No.
And Company's House at the end of
So
this
League
month?
1 and League 2 clubs don't have to present their financial statements to the Football League until the statutory filing deadline, which is the end of this month. So that's when they will be finalised. So and we will do exactly what we did last year, which is a short release just to explain the results and where they've been. So yeah, that's
you're really telling me that you don't know at all what the loss is going to be for this year?
Are you saying they're not published yet?
No, they're not published, but you must know what the figures are. Can you share them?
They'll be shared when they're
They'll be
published.
shared when they're published, Colin. They are.
Process for doing that.
I mean, I don't want to be difficult about this, but we're a private limited company owned by the shareholders, and until the shareholders see them, I'm not telling anybody what that loss is.
So the shareholders haven't seen them either?
Of course, the shareholders have seen drafts of them.
So
They're the ones that are putting the money in, Guy. They know what it's costing.
What's the just to understand what is the purpose? I don't mean to be rude, Colin, but what's the point of the question?
The point of the question was a very open question, one which I expected you would have known the answer. And we talk about communication and so on, and here we are basically being told what? It's none of our business?
It's not that. It's just it
That's
depends
how it's coming across.
It depends. Well, I think there's it's.
I didn't expect the answer you've given. To be honest.
We did tell you earlier that the shareholders are putting in about £5 to £6 million a year just to keep the club afloat.
Yeah.
It doesn't include the 500,000 that we spent in the January transfer window, or the 300,000 that we spent in the summer transfer window.
For which everybody is grateful. But
so where are you going with the question?
I guess the bigger question is, okay, let's accept that there's going to be a loss. It's going to be fairly hefty.
Yes.
Underwritten by the shareholders.
Yeah.
By way of either soft debt or probably a bit of equity as well, as has been the case the last couple of years. We're 3/4 of the way through 2024 year. Nothing has changed, a busting lot off the field, I'm sure, so I expect it's yet another loss of similar figures, 4 or 5 million. By the time we get into the new stadium, we could very easily be 40 million or so in debt, exclusive of any stadium debt. Would you agree?
It's not something necessarily that I can comment on, but what I can comment on is the support that the shareholders give to the tune of £5 to £6 million a year, and will continue to give until the stadium's built. So
And that was where I was leading
well,
to.
if you wanted to know the answer to that question, that's the answer.
Is it just going to sit there as soft debt, or will it at some point be taken up as equity?
That's not a genuinely, that is not a question I can answer because I am not a shareholder. What I can say is that there are particular rules with the Football League and financial rules which mean that a certain proportion of that debt has to be converted to equity every year.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what will
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
But what I can also say, just in case we're talking, because I think it's quite a provocative word to use, soft debt, the loans are not repayable on demand and they are not interest bearing. Let's just be very, very clear about that. So I just want to be absolutely clear that this is not a situation where the owners of this club are just going to say, oh, I'll take my 20 million quid back now, thanks. That does not happen. So
Okay.
just to be clear on that.
Okay, thank you, Colin. Let's another question, please. Paul, we've only got time for 2 or 3 more. Probably we've got someone lined up this side and that side. Yes, sir.
Robin, good evening, gentlemen. As somebody, I spent 2 years, happy years, playing for this club in the very early 60s and have been a paying spectator since. I watched the comical movements of going from the Manor to here. I thought that we might have found a home, but obviously that was not to be. I actually live in Kidlington. I spend half my time walking around Kidlington trying to sell the new stadium to the people. But what's frightening me is I'm listening to figures here that Oxford United will never, never be debt-free. And it worries me because, you know, we will never be a club that can stand on its own feet. And you know, we're going to have, well, we can't afford this because we've got to do that. I mean, the word, if you walk around Oxfordshire at the moment, I can give you 50 names of people saying to me, oh, whilst the name Kassam's over that door, I'll never go there. It's a bad taste. And you, sir, gentlemen, have got to sell yourself, not us. We do the work. You've got to sell yourself to the general public out there in Oxford and tell them you're going to be, but as I said, I'm getting on in years, and I think I'd never see Oxford United debt-free, and it's frightening me.
Can I just address that point? I would love, actually, sorry, I'll take that back. Who in this room has ever had or still has a mortgage on their property? Okay. So there's quite a lot of people in this room who are not debt-free, but probably wouldn't consider themselves to be debt-free. And what I would also say is that the vast majority of companies, private, public, or otherwise, in this country are similarly not debt-free. So debt is not the problem. Unsustainable debt is the problem. So what I can assure you is that no lender will lend a football club unsustainable debt. Yes, we will take on debt. Yes, we will have that debt. That debt will never be unsustainable. It is always done with the right intention.
The football club might not take on the debt. Go back to an earlier discussion about how the whole thing gets structured. It could be the stadium and the debt's in a separate company, which actually protects the football club from the debt. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I was not hedging earlier. We're not there yet. We will put a responsible financial structure in place that makes the football club sustainable and the stadium sustainable.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. We've got time for just 2 more. We've got a guy here, I think he's booked in, and a guy here perhaps as well. But Paul, yep, carry on. Thank you.
Oh, hello. Just on a more different topic, bringing the conversation back to kind of Jerome's question about what do we do about the atmosphere, and kind of not repeating what Lady said about the box park, but just adding to it. I kind of have long-term and the short-term, Kassam, or the Blackbird, or the Catherine Wheel, or something, just to have an event before the home game, especially maybe the home games around to late March, April, where they're going to be very crunch games. And let's be honest, as I've experienced, so Bristol City away this season, a bit of Carlisle, and a few others, where when there is something before the game, there's not a there is definitely a correlation, a direct influence on the atmosphere, because there's a collective experience, and it shows when people come in with that mindset. So we turn on when people walked in, sat in their car, and as I do, literally just walk around 10 minutes. I mean, I just bother to get it 10 minutes before the game starts, because there's no point. I mean, I've tried to make a day out of it, a home game, since it's impossible, to be honest. So would the club ever consider that? And the second question, and sorry to break the rules and talk about the stadium, but would the new stadium ever consider having kind of trucks, where maybe with some sponsors like drink sponsors or anything, or something in the stadium, or some form of like street food thing, to kind of get an atmosphere going? Again, I go back to the example, when I went to Bristol City, they had the Thatchers, now I'm fully aware that's their sponsor, but they had the fantastic line of taps and stuff. And it was literally the atmosphere, even for a Tuesday night first round League Cup games, which are normally dead, actually had something to it, to be honest. So
I'll answer that. I think would we consider tying up with a local pub? Absolutely. So more than happy to take a suggestion on that, pubs that you think that would work with. I think on the for the new stadium, to answer that question, that's been built into the design. So there is a big area that we're currently calling the Plaza, working title, but that is to be a dedicated match day fan zone, and exactly what you've talked about. There will be, talking about it today, provisions for power so that we can do street food vendors, we can have beer trucks, we can have big screens showing games before and after, and that is exactly what we're going to replicate across the concourses as well. TV screens, decent beers at decent prices, good food. So yeah, absolutely, we are. That's built into the new design.
Yeah, if I could just, the microphone's working. Adam's absolutely right. I used to go to the Newcastle games when I was a season ticket holder. I'd go to the same pub, meet my grandfather, my uncles, have the same couple of pints of Guinness. Go to the. It's about that experience. I mean, you mentioned before, right? Riding to the pub on the front of your dad's cycle and all the rest of it. It is about your personal experience, every single fan's personal experience with the venue, and that starts from literally match day. It could start beforehand, you might start getting excited beforehand, but it starts from match day. So getting there, habits, where you can sit and drink, how you can meet your friends. We talked about areas of the stadium that people will start getting used to as being certain sections and meeting points. We are really spending a lot of time to make sure and we talk about fan experience, and this isn't just, you know, us saying it's all about fan experience. We are diving into the details of what that means to fans of different demographics from different locations. And we really are spending a lot of time to make sure we get that right. Obviously, we've got a confined site in the Triangle, but we do have is a 365-day venue where concourses, premium GA, and sorry, Sarge, it still says sports bar on the plans. It should have just said bar. They got a rollicking for that. But that's still to be defined, and we still need to define what those spaces are and cater for different people in the stadium. So we are spending a lot of time making sure we get that right.
I appreciate, just to add on, those are conversations regarding future. About the now, as much as Jonathan said about his northern accent, you probably recognise I've got a slightly West Country accent and quite a big connect to Bristol City. I get exactly what you're saying there. Andy and myself, that has been our goal since the minute I've walked through the door. I came in here in December. I want to create that. Not exactly easy to do. I've got to give credit to Michael in the background. We're trying to help us with the club, trying to put things in place. The working relationship to try and create some sort of pre-event is things we're trying to do. We're trying out different things. Adam and his team are doing a fantastic job at trying things to see what we can make work. It's not straightforward. And what the biggest difference is, the fan village, which you now have at Ashton Gate, has taken years to develop. And it's not something we could create next Saturday and everybody would turn up. Because one of the things for all the commercial viability comes to that, if you build it, they've got to come. Whereas what they're doing for the future, it is going to be built in a way that will make it come. So, and I give credit to Andy again in the background. We've tried and we've looked, and I sat, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? And you've gone, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. We're exploring every option for now, for the future, and for the long-term future.
I think we're going to go to the last question now. I know there are other people who want to speak. What I can say from an Oxfox point of view, if you've got those questions, if you get them to us, if these guys are happy, we'll put a list together. We'll get those questions to you. We'll get them answered. I know we'd like to do it here. We've got what, 150, 200 people here. We've got 300 people online. It's amazing. Our supporters are engaged and speaking, and we want to get those questions answered. So get them into us, and we will try and get them answered.
My question is about the half-time experience. And don't get me wrong, Peter Rhodes-Brown, who's been doing that kind of role at half-time, is a fantastic guy and engages well with the fans. I just think it's getting a little bit tired, the same old sort of hit the crossbar type competition. Secondly, briefly, can we try and encourage the manager to engage with the fans directly, particularly say after a win? Because you see other managers come in front of the main stand, say the Oxford Mail stand, and celebrate with them. We don't see him. We weren't introduced to him when he joined the club. He does his interviews. I'm sorry, but we can all see the league table, and he just keeps going, 12 games to go, 11 games to go. We can count, we see the league table. But mainly, the engagement with the manager wouldn't harm him to come round and wave to the fans or something.
Well noted. I will pass that on personally.
Yeah. Half-time?
If I just address the half-time thing, I think you're absolutely right. Rosie's done a fantastic job, been doing it for a long time, but agree with you, it has got a bit tired, and actually discussions are going on at the moment about what we can do to replace that and enhance it. So you will start seeing some changes there and some new activities at half-time.
Well, as Paul said, you can get the questions emailed in. We have obviously got a time scale. We have gone 8 o'clock. There are two that got a lot of sent in I'd like to finish with because they're very short and very easy, quick answers for us. I think they're very important, particularly how much money do the club anticipate they'll make from the Joey Beecham Foundation shirts, and what is an activation?
Well, look, I think I'll address the Joey Beecham one. It never started life as a Joey Beecham shirt. It was a retro shirt, part of our retro range of shirts that we were launching. The planning for that started August, September, something like that. In January, we then had a conversation. We took an idea to the trustees of the Joey Beecham Foundation and Luke Beecham to create a second version of that, which would be priced at £51, with the £11 of that going directly to the Joey Beecham Foundation. So it's not about what we made for it. It was an opportunity for fans to donate. I think I'll just make it clear, though, we have a separate agreement with the Joey Beecham Foundation, which outlines a whole raft of additional things that we offer to them. Support. Grant had a meeting with Luke a couple of nights ago, and there's a lot more that we'll be doing in addition.
Just point out there's a collection also for the foundation as you leave tonight if you'd like to donate to that. And so the final word, the activation.
Yeah, what's an activation? Yeah, who called it an activation? It's what we do on a match day. Match day experience. Simple as that. If you don't like the word activation, we'll just change it.
Well, thank you for all for attending tonight. I'm sorry we can take no more questions this evening because it is after 8. Thank you to Jim, to Tim, to Grant, to Adam and to John for taking your questions. For you to coming out. Thank you to Oxfox and the supporters group putting this on. And if you're watching the stream as well, thank you for your company. Safe journey home. Good night.